Welcome to the Fantasy Football Fanatics podcast with your hosts Griffin Palmer, CJ Hickman, Jason Cabrera, and Ryan Mitchell.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the show. It is Friday, May 25th. This is the Fantasy Football Fanatics podcast, the official podcast of thefantasyfootballfanatics.com. I'm your host, Griffin Palmer, joined by both CJ the Hitman Hickman and Jason Cabrera. Welcome back, CJ.
Hey, man.
That is triumphant return for the Hitman. How you been, bud?
Yes. I'm doing good, man. A lot of things have changed, a lot of things stay the same. Gotta get that intro.
Constantly grinding, working on new things, as we all understand. Man.
But you guys been doing good, man. I've been listening to the show. I'm very happy with what I've been hearing, man. You guys been going good, though.
You came back just in time for us to not be able to start making up stories about what you may or may not be doing, so that's too bad. But
okay, all right, that's okay.
It's just where we were heading. So welcome back, buddy, and of course, Jason. Welcome. Hey, how you doing, Jason?
I'm doing good, man. Good. Welcome back, CJ.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
All right. Well, today we do have an amazing show for you guys. Today we're going to be talking about Dynasty rookie rankings. Now, I went ahead and put my top 2 rounds, my top 24 Dynasty rankings up for the show, and we're going to be talking through those, debating them as we always do, and kind of getting to the bottom of everything. So that will be a little bit later in the show. Before we get to that, we have our bookkeeping. Of course, make sure you guys subscribe wherever you're listening. Rate, review the show. Helps us out a ton. Share the show with some of your friends. I know that is blasphemy in fantasy circles. We want to hide your little resources, but if you want us to be able to keep doing what we're doing, it helps us out a lot. So, yeah, ratings, reviews, sharing, it helps us out a lot. Go over to Twitter at the FF Fanatics. You can submit your questions over there, interact with us easily. You can go to Facebook at facebook.com/thefantasyfootballfanatics. Lots of resources at your disposal. And most importantly of all, if you want to support the show and help us truly keep these lights on, head over to patreon.com/thefantasyfootballfanatics and get yourself a bunch of bonus perks along the way and help us keep doing what we are doing. It's all to help the ball rolling, keep it going. With that, I guess let's start with a warm-up question. Now, this one comes in from TJ on Facebook, and I already had a long back and forth with TJ and answered the question, but I thought about it afterwards, and there are some aspects to it that you guys might see differently, so I was just curious your thoughts on this one. And he says that he has a 10-team PPR keeper league, and he said pick 3. He has Julio Jones for a first-rounder. He has Melvin Gordon for a second-rounder, Josh Gordon for a fifth-rounder, Zach Ertz for a 7th-rounder, Alvin Kamara for a 12th-rounder. So, what would you guys keep here? Now, I will say I messaged him back and asked him if he had to keep 3. He said he did not, but that he did have the number 1 overall pick as well. So these all kind of played into the response I gave him. So, what is your guys' thoughts here?
First things first, you get rid of Julio. Like, if you've got the first overall pick, you drop Julio like a bad habit, and you grab the best running back available, which in this particular case, since you're talking about a dynasty fantasy league, a keeper league rather, probably Barkley, I would guess.
Yeah, he was saying he was targeting Barkley.
Yeah, so I would definitely, that's a no-brainer for me. You drop Julio immediately. I mean, Kamara in the 12th, yeah, you got to take Kamara if he's in the 12th. There's no way you're going to drop that. You keep that. And then for me, it's either Melvin Gordon in the 2nd or Josh Gordon in the 5th. Man, that's a good one. What do you think, CJ?
Well, I already know how Griffin's thought process is with Melvin Gordon. I mean, I like him, but I mean, at the 2nd, I don't know. I think that's probably a little too rich, especially this season. There's a lot of mouths to feed in that offense. He's going to get his share, but I don't know if I'm going to take him in the 2nd round. But I agree with you on Julio. Definitely dropping him like a sack of potatoes. Don't want no parts of him on that one. And I would target Barkley's too. So for me, I guess I would probably have to go with Ertz, Kamara, and then I'm gonna take a shot at Gordon, man. I like Gordon's upside, especially with a mobile quarterback. I'm sorry, Josh Gordon. I'm gonna take Josh Gordon on the 5th. I like his upside, especially with now Tyrod Taylor being there. He got a mobile quarterback. He's going to be looking for him down the field, and you already know that he's like an all-around receiver. So I like his projection this year to be able to play all the full season, be healthy, and then be able to go back to being his dominant self like he was a couple years ago.
Right. See, I told him because it's a 10-team league and players are going to slip. I mean, obviously, Alvin Kamara is the no-brainer in the 12th. And then I told him, you could debate Melvin Gordon because he is a first-round pick. He's currently going as the number 8 overall pick, and you're getting him in the 2nd, so that's good value. You'll have your number 1 pick. Yeah, there's no way I'm keeping Julio Jones for my number 1 pick, especially when I have the 101, when Julio Jones is currently going as a first pick in the 2nd round in most average draft positions right now, so he's not worth a first-round pick. So get yourself whatever the best running back available is. If that's Saquon, so be it. You'll have Melvin Gordon, Alvin Kamara. You are set at running back, and then you can pick up guys as you go. I wait on tight end, so I said, that's up to you. You'll do what you want there. Josh Gordon, I think there'll be better value available in the 5th round because it's a 10-team, so there's going to be more talent later in the draft. So I said I would just keep those two. I would keep Melvin Gordon in the 2nd, Alvin Kamara in the 12th, and just kind of let the rest go. I mean, odds are you might be able to pick up a number of these guys anyway. So that was my thought process. You guys are more or less on the same page as me. So there you go, TJ. Answer from all angles. With that, I guess let's move into our top headlines from around the league. And we'll start with some league-wide headlines, starting with that the 2019 NFL Draft has been announced that it will be held in Nashville. So that should be fun and different.
This is going to be interesting.
It'll be something. So we know where it's going to be. So there's that.
I don't know what to feel about that. I don't know.
I mean, it's a city hosting. It's not a big deal,
man. I mean, the draft is becoming a bigger and bigger spectacle. I really like it. I'm a big fan.
Yes. CJ doesn't. You're caught off guard on this one, CJ.
Yeah, I was caught off guard. I saw Nat. I was like, Nashville. What?
Surprise. Why not?
Music City, man.
Yeah, man. Music City, big place. They can handle the capacity. Nashville 2019 NFL Drafts will be here before we know it. Also in the league-wide headlines, we now know who will host Super Bowls 57 and 58 if you're keeping score. So, to do a whole rundown, because I don't know why you need to know 6 Super Bowls out, but if you need to know, here it is. So this year, it's in Super Bowl 53 in 2000. Oh, wait, no, I have 2019. Sorry. I forget who's this year. I didn't write it down. Oh, crap. 2019, Super Bowl 53. Oh, wait, no, that's the year it's held and not the season. Duh, I'm dumb.
That's the year it's happening.
I'm dumb. There you go. I was going to say, wait, I thought I got the full list. Yeah. So the 2018 season, the 2019 Super Bowl, Super Bowl 53 is in Atlanta at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Number 54 is in South Florida at the Hard Rock Stadium. Number 55 is in Tampa Bay at Raymond James Stadium. Number 56 in Los Angeles in their new Los Angeles Stadium. And now number 57, now announced in the February of 2023, will be the Arizona Cardinals in the University of Phoenix Stadium. And then in 2024, February rather, number 58 is the New Orleans Saints finally returned to the Super Bowl after the power outage that happened during my team's Super Bowl, playing at Mercedes-Benz Superdome. So you now know the next 6 destinations of the Super Bowl. I guess start booking your airfare now. It's probably cheaper now. So
Way
there's
cheaper
that.
for me.
Well, I mean, it's not going to get too bad for you there in 5 years there, Jason.
Right.
Yeah, I'm about to say, so the real question is, which one of our teams are going to be in those Super Bowls? And what are the odds? Though that's the thing right there.
Home game, baby. Home game.
So we have Atlanta hosting. I mean, let's break this down. Do you see, I mean, obviously, we won't know 3 years from now what these teams look like. It's all projection.
Well, no.
Do any of these teams look like they could be hosting a Super Bowl right now? So we've got the Falcons this year. Obviously, competitors. I don't know if they're favorites to be in a Super Bowl, but they'll be competitive in the division. So it's possible.
Sure.
I'm gonna say no, though. I'm gonna say no, so you can move on.
Gonna take a hard answer and say no.
I'm gonna take a hard no.
I like it. Next year in South Florida, not a home stadium for a team, so we move on. Number 55, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are hosting. Do you think the Bucs could host and play in their Super Bowl in their own stadium in 3 years' time?
As they are now, no. I would say no.
So I'm gonna say hard no on that one too.
They've got a lot of good young pieces. I think it could be interesting, especially if Winston takes another step, and they've got Godwin who could take another step. Offensive weapons, the running game could pick up. Maybe they upgrade some more pieces on the defense. It's possible. It's not outside the realm of possibilities that they at least win the division.
They need some clarity at the running back position. That's the main thing they need. And they need a better offensive line, and the defense needs a little help. But other than that, I mean, they're okay, but I don't see them competing in the Super Bowl this year.
I mean, that gives them 3 more off seasons to try and build that offensive line.
They got good pieces. they followed the Philly system from last season to this year. They upgraded the defensive line with a free agency. They drafted some young pieces to be able to build while those vets are there. So I agree with I agree with Griffin. They brought some pieces in now that lands a good foundation so they can be able to compete possibly in 3 years when this is going down.
Well, if we're talking 3 years, I mean, yeah, you don't know we have no idea what could happen.
Well, I mean, it's not 2021, so it would be 3 years.
Yeah.
Let's move on to Super Bowl 56, where it gets a little interesting. Los Angeles, 2 teams, 1 stadium, so that doubles the chances. Could the Rams or the Chargers possibly host and play in the Super Bowl? I say that this, obviously, you got to take the field here, but I think there's a good chance because those are 2 teams that are consistently good. Could be great. The Rams are a favorite right now.
I think
2022. Yeah. I mean, the Chargers are probably going to need a new quarterback by that point. Philip Rivers is getting old.
Very true.
So that might eliminate them. They may be rebuilding as far as that goes. But the Rams got Jared Goff. He's a young kid, and they got Gurley. He's a young kid. They're up and coming, but I don't know, man. They kind of blew their wad this year, trying to win right now.
Yeah.
And trying to put all their eggs into one basket. So I'm a little concerned about them going forward in the next couple of years.
You actually beat me to my point with the Rams. Is that exactly that? They're trying to cash in on kind of like the Eagles model, like CJ was saying. They're throwing everything they can at skill positions and positions across the board to try and win now before they have to start paying Goff his big boy first contract. So, I don't know, because that team will look very different in 4 years.
4 years from now, though. It's 4 years from now. So, I mean, yeah. Once you start getting more than 3 years out, you're like,
it's raw speculation.
Really?
But this is, something that we can obviously talk about because he's going to be off his rookie contract by then. So it will drastically affect this team. They have a lot of short-term contracts on what makes that team really stout right now on defense, offensive pieces. So we'll see. But yeah, it could go either way. But interesting that obviously there's twice the chance that it happens. Let's see. Now obviously now we're getting into pure speculation 5-6 years down the road. The Arizona Cardinals, they're rebuilding right now, but maybe they'll be rebuilt by then, so that could be interesting.
Josh Rosen can be a guy.
They're definitely retooling.
We are retooling. We are not rebuilding.
You're not rebuilding?
They're somewhere in between.
No.
I lean closer to retooling than rebuilding, but I don't think they're quite where they want to be yet. So we'll see. And, that's 5 years, so they could be there. They won't have Larry anymore, that's for sure.
That Super Bowl. We'll win that Super Bowl.
You'll win that Super Bowl, Super Bowl 57, Cardinals? Yeah. All right, we'll hold you to it.
I'm calling it right here. Arizona wins the home game at the Super Bowl. There you go.
Listen, I got $100 for that.
I was going to say, let's put some money on this.
Let's put some money on this. That in 5 years.
So CJ and I will both throw up $100 and say that doesn't happen.
I definitely will remember
that. I'll just take the field on that one. So
I'll take the field
I'll put $100 up, Jason, if you want to beat it. So we'll talk about that off the air, so you're not held to it too much. And
you're not getting $100 when kids keep moving.
Oh, he's so sad. He backs out. And maybe you'll win our expert league, and then you'll have the money. So we'll see. And number 58, obviously the Saints. I think they're always in the conversation. So I mean, maybe, but Drew Brees will be gone by then.
Drew Brees.
So
yeah.
It adds a unfortunate wrinkle to the Saints and see how they recover. So I'd say probably not, unless not knowing what they're going to have in the future. And this is all, like we keep saying, speculation. So no point in dwelling on it. Let's move on. Let's go to the quarterback position. We'll go to Indianapolis, where head coach Frank Reich insists that the team is, quote, not worried at all, end quote, that quarterback Andrew Luck has yet to resume throwing. And obviously still coming back from that shoulder injury. This is one of those narratives I don't want to talk about anymore, but we have to because it's such an impact. So he's not throwing yet. They're saying that they're not worried about it. This is the same narrative we heard last year. I think you have to just, take the wait-and-see approach, and if you're drafting now, I would stay away from Indianapolis. If you're in keeper dynasty drafts, I would be looking away from there because we just don't know when it's all said and done. Yeah. And who's to say that even if he does come back, it's not going to take one good shot for him to re-aggravate. So as big of an Andrew Luck fan as I am, I'm worried about this news, even the context of it.
It just feels like Frank Wright is just reading this off like a cue card. freaking what's the owner's name?
It feels like we're back in 2017 is what it
yeah,
feels
yeah.
like.
It just feels like he just shoved that on him. He's like, listen, look, I just need you to just read this, and just wipe the pool of sweat off your forehead when you're doing it. Okay, I got you. It's weird.
Frank Reich has been a head coach for like a month, and he's already lying.
He's lying.
It doesn't take long.
Terrible liar.
They all do that.
Terrible liar.
They're all very good at it. So yeah, Andrew Luck, we don't know. Let's go to Philadelphia, where quarterback Carson Wentz, a little bit better news here. He has resumed throwing during individual drills during OTAs, so that's good news. Obviously, a phenom last year. Let's see if he regains any of the form he had, so we'll see. Also good news, Houston Texans quarterback Deshaun Watson is also throwing during individual drills during OTAs, so both of these guys that could be very high draft picks if people overreact, as we've been seeing. So we'll see.
Love it.
CJ, you weren't here for this mock draft, but we were talking about how I've seen in mocks how Deshaun Watson is going as the number one quarterback off people's boards right now.
Wow.
I've seen him go as high as the second round.
That's too
wow.
That's
wow. I mean, I love that. But wow.
I like him, but come on.
Should never, ever, 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 ever happen.
Let it happen. That means more players are falling.
That's what I said. Yeah, just got to push value down in drafts. So it is
crazy,
what it is.
though.
Those guys are welcome to come and play fantasy with me, is all I'm saying.
Oh, my goodness, yes.
Let's go to Buffalo, where head coach Sean McDermott said that the number 7 overall pick, quarterback Josh Allen, is currently working as the third quarterback on the team's depth chart, working with the third team players. So...
Well, alrighty then.
I think this is just the political answer. When he's asked about how he's doing, he's the rookie. They're not going to just give him the reins. They're not going to say go in there and be our starter. I mean, we all thought it was going to come down between him and A.J. McCarron. I don't think Nathan Peterman stands a chance here. In fact, if I'm looking at their official depth chart right now and has Josh Allen as the number 2 already. So, this just seems like the correct answer to be giving in May. Yeah. So
Good answer.
Well done. Good on you, Coach. So yeah, we'll monitor as we go forward, but I don't expect that to be the case come the end of training camp. Let's go to Oakland, where the Raiders have acquired quarterback Christian Hackenberg from the New York Jets in exchange for a conditional 2019 7th-round pick.
Called it.
Did you?
You called it, Drew?
That the Jets were going to drop Hackenberg? Yeah, I called it.
Oh, yeah, well, we knew that was going to happen. I thought you called that the Raiders were going to trade for him. I was like, wow, that's impressive. Holy crap.
No, that didn't call.
Yeah,
that would have been extraordinary.
No. So we were talking about how the Jets had 5 quarterbacks on the roster. They've already whittled that down to 3, and the 3 that we all expected them to keep anyway. So Josh McCown, the starter. Teddy Bridgewater's there for fractions of pennies on the dollar, so I expect him to probably remain. And, of course, first-round pick Sam Darnold. So I think that's going to be their quarterback room for the season, unless someone goes down.
Yep.
I mean, I like that. I like it for Hackenberg, though, man. He got a tough break with the Jets, and you get into the wrong position, man. It can shatter your confidence, man. So maybe just some new scenery, and we'll probably hear his name, or you know what, he'll probably make some noise in the preseason. I'll guarantee that. I think that.
Well, at least we know we can take Bryce Petty and Christian Hackenberg out of the equation in New York. So there you go. There's that. That was it for the quarterback news. Let's go on to the wide receiver position, where back to Buffalo, head coach Sean McDermott said that wide receiver Zay Jones underwent knee surgery and will miss the remainder of the offseason program. So, remember when we were talking about this team needing everything to kind of come together and take that next big step and progress, and they need these guys to seize the moment so that Josh Allen has any real chance here, who is apparently working with the 3s anyway, so it doesn't matter. The Bills are going to be bad this year. I'm going to go out and say it. I'm sorry, Bills fans, but there's just so many problems with this team.
You just got to trust the process, Bills. You just got to trust the process.
You got to trust Sean McDermott and all the management to figure this out, but I am not liking what I'm seeing. I know a lot of analysts have gone out. Quite a few that I've seen have anointed them as being probably the number 1 overall pick next year. I don't want to be that pessimistic about it, but, I mean, they have a lot of needs. They are clearly in a rebuild now. So some great young pieces. But, I mean, you have an ancient running back now in LaShawn McCoy, who we all love, but he's going to wear out sooner or later, probably sooner. Josh Allen is developmental. They drafted they drafted a lot of depth and some nice defensive pieces, but they really need help. And now your second-round wide receiver from last year is having off-the-field issues and now having surgeries, and one of your only two real options at wide receiver is going to miss training. And we've all seen this. Oh, but he'll be ready for the season. But it takes a really long time for them to get caught up, learn what's going on, develop a rapport. I mean, hey, he's never worked with either of the quarterbacks. He's never worked with A.J. McCarron or Josh Allen. So it's going to be this whole learning under fire thing. Zay Jones will probably be useless for the season for fantasy. Probably not a huge contributor for the team. It just doesn't look good. So, I mean, Kelvin Benjamin maybe gets a boost from this because he's going to be getting all of the targets. But, I mean, what's he going to really do with it? I don't know if this team's going to be in scoring position very often. So maybe a PPR option, but I'm sorry, Bills fans, but it's not looking good. So that's unfortunate news to hear. Also, in wide receiver news, we'll head over to New England with the Patriots wide receiver Julian Edelman, who was limited in OTAs, dealing with knee injury still. So this is obviously newsworthy, coming off of injury, something to monitor as we go forward. Let's go to the tight end position, where this.
What is going on with this team? Damn it!
The Chargers and the Ravens can't stay healthy. The Chargers tight end Hunter Henry, in what we all expected to be his massive breakout, magical third-year season, it's not going to happen this year. He tore his ACL in practice in a non-contact drill and will miss the entire 2018 season.
This is bull crap.
Terrible.
Little bull crap.
Terrible news. So remember when we were talking about how every year the tight end position looks like it's getting deeper and deeper and it never turns out to be? Well, here goes one of those things that we thought for sure was a surefire thing right off the top. So that really sucks a lot for fantasy. It sucks for Hunter Henry. It helps the wide receivers. But I don't know who's going to really step in here. They don't really have what I would consider a real option on the depth chart. So let me bring up their depth chart really fast so I make sure I have this right. So, behind him, they've got Virgil Green, who, I mean, I think he's serviceable, but I don't think he's the answer they're looking for.
Yeah, he's a blocking tight end. He's not going to be nobody for catching.
No, I agree. So they have some guys that they brought in, rookies that were undrafted, a couple other no-names. So, I mean, when asked, Los Angeles Chargers GM Tom Telesico, I can never say his dang name.
Tom Telesico.
Telesco. I don't know. I'm terrible with names. Anyone who's been with the show for a while knows this. He said he won't rule out re-signing free agent tight end Antonio Gates. So if you want to see a 40-year-old man go running down the field to catch a ball.
Why? Will you just go away?
You ever see The Mummy? Remember The Mummy where he comes out of the coffin and slowly starts regenerating?
Yes.
That's Antonio Gates. He's going to regenerate and get back on the field.
He's going to list leisurely to the left while he's running in a straight line out there.
Maybe they had a trade for one of the Ravens, like 62.
We don't have 62 anymore. We let most of them go. So I mean,
there you go.
Yeah, that's something. But at least, obviously, a big boost for I think Mike Williams now. Mike Williams and Tyrell Williams. I expect both the Williams guys to be out there really being effective in the red zone. So
it's not like they don't have enough targets. I mean, at least they got a lot of targets.
Plenty of targets. So I'm thinking one of the other four tight ends besides Virgil Green might step up in a blocking role, and they might just go super protection, try and make running lanes for Melvin Gordon, and really use the really four really talented wide receivers there to move this offense. So I mean, I don't think this is a nail in the coffin for the Chargers, but it's a big blow for sure, and definitely a blow for fantasy rosters. So that's really unfortunate. So we move on. Also, Green Bay Packers have signed unrestricted free agent tight end Mercedes Lewis. So, obviously, formerly of the Jacksonville Jaguars. He had a couple of really nice games last year, including 3 touchdowns against my Ravens in England, which sucked. And we all told you not to go and get him because that was an anomaly, and then he never really did it again. So, I don't expect him to be much of anything in Green Bay. I think he's just a depth piece. Obviously, Jimmy Graham is there. So, we move on. A little bit of other news, and this is sad. Philadelphia Eagles linebacker Paul Warlow has suffered a torn ACL and will miss the 2018 season. That's a big loss. Obviously, he's...
Hey, take it easy. Take it easy, okay?
It's a big loss. He's a huge acquisition.
No, stop it.
No. You're gonna trust the team, trust the process, trust your depth chart, and move on from the fact that this is a big name to lose.
Take it easy. Take it easy. It's okay.
I mean, coming off that Super Bowl high, I see. And we'll move on. And here we go. Domestic violence charges against San Francisco linebacker Reuben Foster have been dropped. So looks like he will be remaining with the team then. So that's something. And I guess with that, I gotta stop saying so much. I'm checking the time. We are about 25 minutes into the show. That gives us plenty of time to talk about our Dynasty rookie rankings. Now, I say ours. These are mine. Now, remember, if you're listening right now, these are not the rankings you're going out and you're drafting with if you're in a standard league, in a redraft league, or anything crazy like that if you're drafting right now. These are rankings that are based solely on the players, where they wound up, the situation they're in, and how we project them in the long run. So I have my top 24 on here, and I guess we'll just go kind of rapid fire down the line, and we'll talk about any ones that you guys want to talk about as we go. So hopefully this is helpful for you if you have rookie drafts for your Dynasty leagues coming up and you haven't done them already. But I thought that the number one guy you have to have, and I don't think I will meet any resentment or contention here, New York Giants running back Saquon Barkley. Do we all agree on that?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Has to be the top prospect. He's going right in, getting the full workload uncontestedly, and he's going to be, he's going to probably be a first-round pick in standard drafts as it is. So this is a guy you have to pick up. He's going to be a thing for a long time in New York, we think. Agreed?
Agreed.
All right, let's move on. My number 2 guy is Washington Redskins running back Darius Geis. Now, he's a guy that we all had as our number 2 running back in our projections for the NFL draft. Obviously, did not work out that way. He ended up being the 27th pick in the second round, so I think that made him the 7th running back, I believe, that was taken in the draft.
Something like that, yeah.
So, yeah, not surprised. Very surprising to us. Not surprising that I have him here on my rankings, though. He's going to definitely come in, I think, and be the first, second down back, and I think he's going to a situation that he will be in for a good while. So I ask you guys, what do you think about this position?
So we're set on Rob Kelly is not going to be a thing. He's not going to do anything. There's no going to be Samaje P. Ryan resurgence, and they believe and trust in him, and then he's just going to be just a rotation back in the system. That's what we're saying.
I don't think so, honestly. I mean, if you look at the depth charts right now, it's between Rob Kelly and Darius Geis, but I think that Darius Geis is going to challenge for touches this year. I think Darius Geis is going to win out that job, and then I think it's going to be Darius Geis' job for years to come. So for Dynasty, I think that this is a obvious pick. I think it's going to be in the long run. Darius Geis will be the first, second down back, and I think Christian Thompson is going to be that third down, change of pack, explosive, set him out wide type guy that they're going to be creative with. And then all these other guys are going to be kind of rotational to spell them as need be. So I mean, what are your thoughts though, CJ? Do you think that's not the way it's going to play out?
I mean, I like the talent. I think he would have probably went higher if it wasn't for all that off the field and mental things that coaches didn't like about him. But in this system, it's tough for me to really picture what he's going to do there because the trend with Washington and their running backs, right now. It's going to be different to see how everything's going to be projecting now with Alex Smith there because when Kirk Cousins was there, yes, they had they were using Rob Kelly, they were using Samaje P. and Ryan sparingly, but the guy that was getting the touches, the majority of them was Chris Thompson because he was the receiving back and Kirk Cousins was dinking and dunking. So Alex Smith has a lot of that same game to him, especially when it comes to dinking and dunking. He rarely takes sacks. So it's going to be interesting to me to see if that continues. And to be honest, I really see that continuing with this scheme. So yes, he's a good pick. Yes, I like him, but I think he's still going to be taking a back seat to Christian Thompson. To be honest,
you think Christian Thompson is going to be their lead back?
Their back, as far as their back, is different. Once again, they didn't really have a guy there these last couple of years, especially this past season. Where once Rob Kelly was out of the picture, Christian Thompson was the one taking the reins, just being the receiving back. So Darius Geis can do both.
Receiving back, obviously.
Yeah, but Darius Geis can do both. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying right now, to me, I would pass on him, and I actually would move Darius Geis down. I would go Ronald Jones. I think Ronald Jones has a really better clear-cut situation than with Darius Geis.
Well, my thought with Christian Thompson is simply that he's played one full season. He's never had more than 68 carries in a season. He's very sparingly used. And even last year, we're talking about how he was very explosive. Obviously, he was very, very good last year when healthy, which, as per usual, he was banged up or missing games. He only had 39 receptions, so I don't think there's any way he is a lead back or shoulders the load. Jason, what are your thoughts?
I definitely disagree with CJ on Ronald Jones. I like Ronald Jones, but I don't think that it's as clear as everyone thinks. I think Jacquizz Rodgers is going to get his opportunity. I think Ronald Jones is eventually going to beat him out. But in Washington, honestly, I think Darius Geis is going to win that job outright in training camp. I think he's just a better back. He's more talented. I think that they're kind of done with that committee thing that they had going on, and they want a workhorse back. And I think that's what they got, because this guy is a very violent, explosive runner. I definitely see him winning that first and second down job.
I just don't see a way that they believe in Rob Kelly, a guy who played in 7 games last year, had 62 attempts, and averaged 3.1 yards per carry. He was not good. So, I mean, I know that there was the narrative that they were going to give him his opportunity this year. Then they went out and drafted Darius Geis, a guy who we all thought was going to be a clear-cut first-rounder, the second running back off the board. And we were talking about how if this was not a year with Saquon Barkley, arguably the number 1 running back. Now, off-the-field issues and receiving concerns pushed him down a little bit, obviously. But, I mean, he's still incredibly talented. So I think he is a locked and loaded guy as the number 2 pick. So, yeah. But let's move on to my number 3, which is the one that CJ was talking about, which is Tampa Bay Buccaneers running back Ronald Jones II. So, obviously, Ronald Jones, he goes into, as CJ was saying, a much less cluttered situation. There's not 7 running backs on the board, 3 or 4 of note. He's going into a place where there's, well, technically 6 running backs on the team, but only 3 of note. Well, maybe 4, because we were talking about this during the mock draft. So, Jacquizz Rodgers is penciled in as the starter.
Okay.
We knew that was going to be the case. He was drafted in 2016. He's not incredibly old. Then they have Ronald Jones currently as their number 2, at least on the depth chart I'm looking at. Then they've got Charles Sims, which I think is change of pace. And then Peyton Barber, strangely enough, was the only one that was currently getting drafted in mock drafts when we were looking at this for our ADP show, Late Round Sleepers, that we just did. So 4 guys of note. I don't think that either of the guys they acquired this year are necessarily worth mentioning, with Sean Wilson, who they got as an undrafted guy, and Dalton Croson, I think is how you say his name, from San Francisco. So I think those are the 4 names to debate. So how do you think this is going to play out? Let's talk about that. So, Jason, obviously you're thinking this is going to be a little bit fuzzy. So let's start with you.
Well, like I said, I think Jacquizz Rodgers is going to get his opportunity. He's kind of been waiting to be the guy there. So I think he's going to get his chance. But I do think, like I said, I do think Ronald Jones is eventually going to end up winning that job. I'm not as big on Ronald Jones as I am on several of the other options that are out there. So I'm not, like I said, volume is going to be great. Once he wins the job, which he will, he'll have high volume. But I don't see, he's not as explosive a back as the other ones that are on this list. So I'm not that big of a fan.
Of Jones?
Of Jones?
Of Ronald Jones.
Okay. So, CJ, your thoughts?
Well, to me, I feel like, listen, I think Jacquizz Rodgers was serviceable. The times that we got to see him play and he got his opportunities, and like Jason said, he has the opportunity to do it now. I really want to know how old this kid is, because I feel like he's been in the league for a while, yeah, he's been in the league for a while now. So this is a young man's game. I mean, I gotta be honest, especially the running back position. And Ronald Jones, he's got the youth. He's very, very elusive, and I think he's going to fit what they're going to do more as far as the dink and dunk. I think that's another thing Jameis is going to need. He's going to need that continue there, that dink and dunk, especially with Doug Martin not being there. So Jacquizz Rodgers, I feel like Jason said, I think Ronald Jones is going to get the shoulder of the load as far as the carries and being that number 1 guy. I think Jacquizz Rodgers can probably get you maybe about like 4 or 5 games, but then I think after that, I think the ball is going to be handed over to Jones, because I think he's going to be burnt out already by then.
Okay, so we're all on the same page then. So for a dynasty pick long run, we all like Ronald Jones. So
yeah, I do.
I mean, because I kind of disagree with Jason to an extent, because I think he actually looked really, really good. I thought he was explosive in short distance. I thought he had really good top-end speed. Obviously, I don't think he was like the most elite in either of those categories, but I thought he looked really, really good and explosive. I thought he had really good cuts. I will admit that he is a little bit lean. I think he needs to put some bulk on if he's going to remain in this league long-term, which could affect his dynasty ranking based on how you lean towards that. But I thought he looked good, and I don't think there's any other back on this roster that's going to end up competing with him in the long run if he can stay healthy, which is why I have him as my third prospect here. So, yeah, that's our top 3. Let's move on to number 4, a guy who He's got a great opportunity, which is why I have him here. I don't like him this year. I like him down the line when they hopefully will finally address offensive line needs. But I have Seattle Seahawks running back Rashad Penny, and simply because the team has come out, said how much they love this guy and how much of an opportunity he is going to have. So I know this one is going to be one of those ones that's widely contested. But, I mean, I look around, and a lot of analysts kind of have him this high or higher in their rookie rankings for Dynasty leagues, which really I think is it's notable. So what are your guys' thoughts on this?
I think he's going to be a good guy for. I feel like, when the season starts, and I think after like week 3 or 4, I think he's probably going to be one of our candidates that we talk about for plug and play for like after bye weeks. Like if one of your main guys is out, I feel like that's what we're going to do because I agree with you on volume alone. He's worth putting up this high. He's worth talking about. But definitely what you say about the offensive line, that's the big sign that says danger, Will Robinson. It's just because that offensive line is so bad and they cannot block for crap. So that's you need that for a running back to be able to get holes and be able to get that positive gain. So yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think volume alone, you're probably going to put him in, and it's going to be matchup based.
All right, Jason.
This year.
Yeah, I mean, as far as them liking him, I don't care. Seattle's already proven that they're not very good at this right now, as far as picking talent. And I mean, they picked the guy who is a decent running back, he's a serviceable running back. He's gonna be okay, but they picked him way too early, and they gave up for him. I'm not a big fan of the move. I'm not a big fan of the player in the situation this year. Down the line, and I'm talking like 2-3 years down the line, sure. But again, we're talking 2-3 years down the line. So would I have him this high? Honestly, no. In the situation that he's in right now, I probably would push him down the list.
Yeah, and again, that's the debate because this team has, like you said, they gave up a lot for him. They have so much invested in this guy. I don't expect him to be going anywhere unless something off the field happens, and that's why for Dynasty, I have him up this high. But yes, this year, I completely agree with CJ. He's definitely plug and play for your roster. He's if they get offensive line help, a mobile quarterback. I mean, we all really like Russell Wilson, but he needs some help. He's going to need some more wide receivers. The only thing he really has is Doug Baldwin that has any level of consistency. They need a lot. This defense is retooling. They're in a full-on rebuild, which is why for this year I could see an argument where you don't want to take him this high, which in that case, sure, don't push him down a couple spots. But I think the upside and a guy that we know is going to be there, we know is going to have the job, and could be in the right situation and the right matchups, be a guy who could help your team. That's the reason I have him where I have him. So again, this will be this guy will be polarizing all offseason. And if you're in standard leagues, I think he falls down drafts a lot. I would probably not touch this guy this year in my redraft leagues for sure. Would you guys agree with that?
No.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
He's definitely a waiver wire plug and play depth guy. Maybe look, if he's there in the double digit rounds, I might scoop him up just to see what happens, but I'm not investing capital in him. Let's move on to my number 5, which is New England Patriots running back Sony Michel. So the Patriots did something very uncharacteristic, and they invested in a first-round running back. So I ask you guys, I mean, this is a guy who we've been hearing how they want to use as a 3-down option. They want to use him, his explosiveness. They want to use him in a lot of creative ways, but you can't argue the fact that there are already other guys on the roster that can do similar things and are established, which is why for this year, he's pretty polarizing. So I ask you, where do you guys lean on Sony Michel now that we've had a couple weeks to process it?
I really like Sony Michel, and I really like Sony Michel in the system that the Patriots run. I think he is a very good fit in that system. Here's my problem. I don't like New England running backs. And the reason is because the system they employ is all over the place. I mean, it's like a socket wrench set, They're like, all right, what position, what situation am I in? I'm going to pick a completely different socket for this. Now I'm going to pick a different socket for this. And it works for the team. In real football, that's one of the reasons that they are so good, But when it comes to fantasy, it's always scary to pick New England running backs because you never know when they're actually going to get any volume.
I agree with that. For me, it's just he steps into that Dion Lewis role. Dion Lewis left. They drafted Sony Michel. He does all the things that Dion Lewis did, and some argue in certain aspects even better. So I think that he'll have to earn his snaps, and that's why this year I think it might be a little inconsistent. But, I mean, Jeremy Hill, I'm not worried about. He'll be red zone at best. Him and Mike Gillislee, one of those two are going to be cut before it's all said and done. Both of them won't be there. They do the same role. James White is a pass-catching back. Rex Burkhead kind of does it all, but he's a little bit bigger, and he's not as good in open space. He's more of a red zone guy as well. I think that by the end of the year, we could be seeing Sony Michel being their lead guy between the 20s, and then who knows what happens in the red zones, which is, again, kind of to your point, Jason, that the volume is hard to come by. But we saw this offense support both Rex Burkhead and Dion Lewis as both being viable starting running backs for the last half quarter of the season. So it's plausible, and down the line,
Sure.
Rex Burkhead's not incredibly young, neither is James White. They're not old by any stretch of the imagination, but I mean they're both probably not going to be there much longer because they're going to come up on bigger contracts. Sony Michel could be looking to have a pretty good workload in a year or two down the line, and this team clearly believes in him because they invested first-round capital in him. So I thought that this has some legs to it, so I'm okay with drafting him in the 5th round. And if he has to be a stash this year, so be it. I think he'll be a viable option for my team down the line. So, CJ, what are your thoughts?
I think I'm going to have to drop him down lower, man. I have to agree with Jason. Right now, with that Patriots offense, man, it's too murky. It's too murky. Your consistency with, when Dion Lewis is there, now that's gone. Like you said, I feel like this year that the two main guys are going to be from them is going to be James White and Rex Burkhead. They have already shown that they like them in the system. I do like the talent in Sony Michel and for the future. So maybe next year and definitely the year after that, I'll be looking for him. But as it stands right now, no, I'm going to say he would be lower for me.
Right, but it's a dynasty rookie draft. You have to draft him this year. So in that case, who would you take in front of him that we haven't talked about yet?
Ahead of him? Yeah, both of you. I would do, to be honest, plug and play right now. I probably would go Nick Chubb. I'll go Nick Chubb and put him ahead of him.
You think Nick Chubb has a better opportunity this year, even though he's behind Carlos Hyde?
Yeah, Carlos Hyde injury prone. So I would say for Nick Chubb for running back, wide receivers. I would go DJ Moore, to be honest.
You take DJ Moore in a dynasty rookie draft over him? Okay. Jason, what about you? What are your thoughts? I mean, obviously you want to push him down as well, so I'm curious who would take over him.
No, I'd definitely take Nick Chubb over him. I probably would take Royce Freeman over him. I probably would take a couple of these. Not many of the wide receivers. I'm not a big rookie wide receiver fan. But like Christian Kirk, I might take over him. He's going to be the number 2 guy in his offense. Gallup, I'd probably take over him. So yeah, I just don't like. I mean, I'm not, and it's not saying anything about the player. I think he's a great player, but I just, like I said, it's the situation he's in I don't like.
That's fair, and that'll be a debate. And again, I like Nick Chubb. I have him as my next running back, but I've got a couple wide receivers between there now, and simply because I don't trust Cleveland, and he's behind established running back in Carlos Hyde, so that's my thought, but we'll get there. So let's rapid fire these wide receivers a little bit quickly, because I don't think a lot of wide receivers generally contribute I mean, obviously, we'll go back a couple years to the Odell Beckham, Mike Evans year and all those other guys that had an amazing season. But that's not typical. A lot of times we see a lot of what happened last year where the top 3 guys that were first-round picks, none of them contributed anything really. So we have – I'm not saying that's going to happen this year either, mind you. But so this year I have at number 6, Carolina Panthers wide receiver DJ Moore. So I think he will probably, out of all of them, be the most immediate contributor. And I think he has the least contention for targets and touches in this offense. Would you guys agree with that?
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
Pretty much. What do you think that Cortland Sutton was going, or Calvin Ridley have less contention for touches this year?
With wide receivers, it's murkier than it is with running backs.
I mean, obviously,
with running backs, you got one. You got the one situation. And with wide receivers, if you say, "Oh, yeah, he's uncontested," no, he's not. There's like 7 guys, 8 guys in that room trying to contest him. So to say he's uncontested, to me, that's jumping the gun just a bit.
I mean, you could make that argument from any position, though. Okay, in my eyes, and the way I have this, I have DJ Moore and Devin Funchess being the starting wide receivers in Carolina. I think Torrey Smith's going to be that outside burner who just stretches the field. He's not going to draw a lot of targets. He's just going to pull the safeties back. And I think it's going to be a lot of middle intermediate stuff to DJ Moore and Devin Funchess. And I think DJ Moore is going to be the main target in the red zone. So I really like him for this year. And I don't, unless they draft some other people or bring some other people in, they don't have anyone else on this depth chart that scares me. So I think that he could easily establish himself as the true number one on this team in about a year or two down the line. And then you're going to have yourself a solid wide receiver for years to come. So I think that he's a no-brainer as the number one rookie wide receiver to be targeting in Dynasty drafts. I don't know, CJ, what are your thoughts?
Well, for me, I definitely have your mindset when as far as what he's going to be doing in this offense, because I'm projecting it. Definitely this year, he might put up a solid season, nothing to wow you or nothing like that. But the years after that, like when Olsen eventually retires, and then they start spreading the ball out more to their wide receivers, and Cam starts trusting his guys more. And really, when you actually go back and look at Cam's record, he starts to whenever he starts to build a relationship with his guys, he starts throwing it more and spreading the ball more around. You had Kevin Benjamin when he was first there, then bunches started coming on, and then he's sending the ball to tight end. So I'm not really concerned about that as far as Olsen getting all the touches. And people can probably look at that and they're like, well, Devin Funchess, he might be lost in the waters. No, I think if they move him in the slot, I think he's going to be pretty dangerous there. And then that's probably where he's going to make his money as far as getting people's away for people's wires this year. And then next year and the year after that, I think that's when he's really going to make his money. So, that's what I'm thinking as far as DJ Moore in this offense.
I like Chubb. I like Chubb over Moore this year. Well, at all, really. And probably, like I said, Royce Freeman. I think he's going to get an opportunity to be the starting guy, this year. So, yeah, those two guys at least I would take over. Any other wide receivers, like CJ said, Christian Kirk, I think, is going to be a big-time contributor this year. So I might think about taking him over DJ Moore. But as far as wide receivers, I think he's at least number 2 on the list of wide receivers.
All right, well, let's pick up the pace a little bit. My number 7 rookie ranking is for Calvin Ridley, Atlanta Falcons wide receiver. So, I mean, obviously, I don't think he's contesting for the number 1 position, but I think that he has a pretty concrete position for years down the line, and I think, obviously, Julio Jones isn't going anywhere anytime soon, but eventually could supplant him once he moves on and be that number 1 there. Worst case scenario, he's in a good offense that likes to pass the ball a lot and is pretty good at it, and with a good quarterback. So I like Calvin Ridley a lot. So I think he fell into a safe spot where he has a good floor with a potential for a high ceiling. What do you guys think?
Well, I mean, I really, really like Calvin Ridley in that offense. I think he's going to be an excellent number 2. Like you said, he's going to have a high floor. This year, obviously, he's not. I don't think he's going to contribute a whole heck of a lot. But I do like him in this position. There's a few names I would definitely take before him. Quite a few names I would take before him in this situation, but I wouldn't have any problem taking him.
All right, so you think he's going to struggle for touches, but behind Mohamed Sanu is what you're thinking?
Yeah, that's my thought process.
Yeah, I think he's got to beat out Sanu. That can be tough.
See, I don't. I think that it's going to be Jones and Sanu on the outside, and I think Calvin Ridley's going to work the slot. I think he's going to be a great kind of PPR option this year, and he's going to probably work into the rotation of being outside as well. I really like him. He's currently penciled in as the starting slot receiver. So, I mean, I think that he's a clear path to produce this year. And then, obviously, down the line, as maybe Mohamed Sanu moves on, or just in general being a really good slot guy, which I don't think is going to be the case.
There's no question down the line. I agree with you. I think he's going to be very good down the line, just not this year.
Yeah, this year's the hookup for me. I mean, I just don't trust Sarkisian offense. I think he's a roadblock. He's a roadblock for those guys, to be honest. So, I mean, I like the talent. Like, I agree with you, Griffin. I like the talent. I like what he can be able to do in the slot. I think he's going to be a huge upgrade over that Taylor Gabriel role and be able to plug and play and put him in there.
Oh, absolutely.
But, I mean, I would take him just because I would be – for me to take him here, I'm thinking, past this season. I'm thinking past this season. I'm going like 2 years down. 2 years down the road. I mean, that's when I'll know in my mind that's when he's going to shine. So I agree with you at this position. I don't feel good about it this year, but the next 2 years, that's when I'm going to be having smiley face emojis.
Absolutely. But again, it's a rookie dynasty draft, so you got to draft him now or you're not going to get him. So, let's move on. Next guy we have is Denver Broncos wide receiver Courtland Sutton. And I think that it's obvious because, I talked about this before. I don't think there's any way he's a big contributor this year. This is a stash play, but I think that next year, with big contracts coming up and this team clearly moving, they are trying their best to just be retooling, but I think that they are kind of on their way towards a rebuild. I don't think they have their answer at quarterback with Case Keenum. They have big contracts with Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders. One, if not both of these guys, I expect to be gone next year. And then Courtland Sutton, I think, automatically slides into being a number one wide receiver here with a lot of volume coming his way. So I think that he's an obvious stash for future years and to have for now in case one of these guys gets hurt. So to me, he's a must-add and therefore my third wide receiver that I'm targeting even for this year. So do you guys have a problem with him being the third wide receiver to be targeting in dynasty rookie drafts?
Nope, no problem with me.
Nope. Jason?
As far as the third, yeah, a small problem just because, like I said, I like Christian Kirk a little bit better in the offense that he's in. Then you got DJ Moore, then you got Calvin Ridley. So I'd probably push him down to fourth. But other than that, I completely agree with you.
All right, I like it. Splitting hairs, but I understand where you're coming from, and we'll get there. So, number 9, we have a guy we've mentioned a few times now, Cleveland Broncos. Good luck. I look at Cleveland and Denver at the same time. Wow. Cleveland Browns running back, Nick Chubb.
There's a new wrinkle.
Yeah, there's a whole new thing.
That's a good mega powers.
They're merging.
Yeah.
So we've already talked about this a little bit in depth. So just to touch on the bases, the reason that he falls down this low for me, I think he will be the starter by So Carlos Hyde's contract, if you look at it, it's basically a 1-year deal that gives them options to keep him for another handful. If Carlos Hyde does not succeed, then he leaves, and then I think Nick Chubb is basically undisputed. They do have Duke Johnson there who's going to be doing pass catching work, so that's something you have to take into account, so I push him down for that. I push him down because Carlos Hyde is there, so I don't think he's going to be as productive this year as some of the guys I have in front of him. I think down the line he has the upside, but he's still playing for the Cleveland Browns, which until I see it, I don't know. They do have Todd Haley there, which I like, who has gotten a lot out of his offense before and probably will again. It's just kind of wait and see. So I was kind of hedging my bets here and taking a little bit of a safer route by pushing him down to number 9 as my 6th running back. But apparently you guys disagree with me, so I'm curious your thoughts as to why he should be higher than this beyond what we've already said. So, Jason, I'll start with you.
Well, first of all, he's running back, and I think he's going to eventually have the top job. And give the top job, he's going to score a lot more points than your average wide receiver. And I think Nick Chubb is good enough to win the job pretty early, honestly. So that's why I like him. I definitely think he fits in very, very well as that 1-2 back. He can do a little bit of everything. So he could be a 3-down back, but they do have a very talented guy behind him that could be that third down guy. But I see Nick Chubb as the starter, and I see him as a starter sooner rather than later.
Yeah, that's my thoughts and process too. Especially with Carlos Hyde there, you already know the injury history with there. You got Duke Johnson there, but he's more the receiving back. I think Nick Chubb is going to definitely be their bruiser for down the road. So I definitely would like him over a lot of these guys in front of him. I like him. I like him ahead of him.
So basically, yeah, Carlos Hyde. I agree. Nick Chubb, he's a 2-down type back. He's going to wear down defenses. He's got a lot of size. He's a good blend of size and balance strength. He's a good runner. I like him for all these reasons, which is why I agree with you. I think he will be the starter down the line. I just think they're paying Carlos Hyde a lot of money to be the starter this year, and then we'll see how he's used. But he's not. I don't think he's a very good 3-down back, which is kind of also why I pushed him down. I don't think he's got good hands. I don't think he's going to be incredibly well used in the receiving game, which is what they have Duke Johnson for, which is for fantasy not ideal, which is why, again, I just let him down just a little bit. Just a little. I still like the guy, but I think his ceiling is a little bit capped because of that. So that's simply where I'm coming from. But let's keep moving. We might just get through our top 12 this show. Number 10, we've mentioned his name a few times now, Arizona Cardinals wide receiver Christian Kirk. And I think this is an obvious choice and why he has to be a top 5 receiver. He's going to a situation where he's probably going to get a good workload from day one. So I feel like I'd be doing a disservice to talk about this myself. I'm just going to throw this to Jason. So, Jason, tell me about him.
Well, you got a guy that I think is probably the first or second most polished route runner in the NFL draft this last year. I really like Calvin Ridley as a route runner, but Christian Kirk is a bit more explosive in my opinion. Whereas Calvin Ridley is a little more smooth in his movements. So I like Kirk quite a bit after watching what he's been doing out in Arizona. He's going to be the number 2 guy behind Larry Fitzgerald, which that's excellent for him. He's going to get an opportunity to contribute right away. He's a very smart player, very fast. He's got everything that you need basically, and he's on a team that needed wide receiver help, and he's providing that. So I think that he is in a position where he's going to, like I said, he's going to be able to contribute early, and he's going to contribute often.
Yeah, that's second. I second that. That's the reason why I like him. And young wide receiver in this Arizona offense that needed that youth. There are a lot of departures that happened in that area. So for him to come there, and then he's connected with Sam Bradford, and if everything goes right in the preseason, if Sam Bradford can stay healthy, that's going to be a nice little connection between those two guys right there.
I just think he's looking at a really good workload for all those reasons. I think he's going to be more of the slot guy. I think Larry might end up bouncing back outside a little bit more, and he's going to get a good volume, and I think he continues to grow. And, I mean, the only guy that's in front of him right now that you could contend, obviously Larry is uncontested as their top target, but is Chad Williams, which I don't think that Christian Kirk will have a hard time competing with. I think that it'll probably be the 3 of them more times than not. I mean, we'll see what Mike McCoy will do. Mike McCoy likes to do a lot of 3-receiver sets, so I think all 3 of them will be on the field a lot, and I think he'll be productive. And down the line, when Larry Fitzgerald retires, he'll get an even larger workload. So I think he falls in the line. It's just because I have him down this far because he's a smaller guy. He's only 5'10". He's not your typical outside receiver, so I don't think his ceiling necessarily is as high as maybe some of the other guys we've talked about, but I love his floor. So, number 11, we have Denver Broncos running back Royce Freeman. So, guys, we talked about the Broncos. We talked about our thoughts on the team. I talked about how I think that they're trying to hold off a rebuild. So, they have Royce Freeman here. Their offensive line is decent at best. They need some help in a couple positions. He's only got to really beat out on this depth chart Devontae Booker, who we've seen flashes of, but he hasn't consistently been very good. In fact, when he's been given the opportunity, he hasn't done much. I think this is going to be really a committee, and it'll just come down to who kind of emerges, but I don't know how good this team's going to be. And I always want running backs on good offenses because I feel like they're in scoring position more often, which is obviously helpful if the team struggles to move the ball to be able to get a touchdown here or there. So that's why I have him down this far. What are your thoughts, either one of you?
It's not a guy that is going to be the starter. I mean, like you said, he doesn't have much in front of him to beat out. And I think Royce Freeman was very underrated in the draft. I thought he should have gone higher. I thought a lot of running backs were that way. They went much later than they should have. But I really like Royce Freeman. I think he's an all-around guy. He's going to be their workhorse sooner rather than later. As far as bad team, yeah, I agree with you. It's not a good situation for him to be in, but the volume alone, I think, is going to take care of that.
DJ?
Yeah, I don't have a lot of history on this guy, so I'm gonna take Jason's advice on it. I just on the outside looking at this team, knowing the position and need they have in that position with the running backs. There's no clear-cut guy outside of Booker, just like you said. So he has the opportunity. If his talent is that good, he has the opportunity to be able to get up to beat Booker on that, because his team is shown that they're not sold on Booker. I mean, he's just left because he has a low contract in that space, and that's what's going on. So yeah, I can see him taking over, and take a shot at him again.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't see a clear-cut winner in this competition between Booker and Freeman. I expect Freeman to probably win it down the line, but I think it's going to be pretty murky for a while. And I think this team is on its way, like I keep saying, on its way to a rebuild. So I don't know how good it's going to be for him, how good fantasy production there will be coming from the Broncos running game. We'll see. But that hesitation is what has me bumped him down to where he is now. And we'll wrap up here with my number 12. We'll finish our first-round rookies. And we have Detroit Lions running back Kerryon Johnson. And like all these other guys that I have kind of in this grouping, it's a muddled situation, but one that I think that he can emerge from. I definitely think that Kerryon Johnson has the opportunity to kind of work his way out from, and we've talked about this a lot in recent shows, I don't see a way that Theo Riddick or LeGarrette Blount are going to be necessarily challenging him for the lead work. I think LeGarrette Blount will be the red zone guy. I think Theo Riddick will be a pass-catching guy. I think Kerryon Johnson will be the first second down between the 20s guy. And I think that Amir Abdullah kind of falls by the wayside. So, but because they have these established guys in these certain roles for this offense, I think he's going to be a part of a committee, a little bit of a bit player, and that's why I have him down this low as opposed to a tier higher with the other running backs that we started with. Down the line a couple years, though, a lot of upside, which is why I still have him as a first-round pick. So, Jason, your thoughts on Kerryon Johnson?
I pretty much agree with you. I think Kerryon Johnson is going to end up being their guy down the road. It's very murky, so I kind of like where you have him because there's just a lot of backs to contend with in that backfield. So I agree. I think put him there and see what he can do.
All right. So CJ, anything you want to add?
No, none pretty much. I mean, I'll just trust you on that. For me, I'm kind of backing the truck up. I'm trying to stay away from Detroit running backs, to be honest, in that grouping.
That's fair. It's been a very long time since they had a 1,000-yard rusher. That's a fine approach as well. All right, so we'll get out of here. We'll keep our second-round rookies. We'll maybe talk about them down the line a little bit. Maybe it'll be a Patreon show. So that's patreon.com/thefantasyfootballfanatics. Support the show. Get yourself a lot of good content like that. And we'll get out of here. So because we're already over an hour. With that, make sure you guys tune in on Tuesday when we're going to be talking all about league management. We always get a lot of mail, a lot of people questioning like, hey, what's the best way to make my league interesting? What's the best way to keep the group engaged? What's the best way to do these settings? What's your preference when it comes to this and that and all of that? Well, we're going to be doing a special on it like we do every offseason, talking about the best ways to handle all of these various topics. So that will be on Tuesday's show. If you have a question, if you're a league manager out there, if there's something you would like to see changed in your league, send in your questions. You can find us on Twitter at the FF Fanatics. You can find us on Facebook, as we already mentioned, at facebook.com/thefantasyfootballfanatics. You can email us at thefantasyfootballfanatics@gmail.com. Various other sources and outlets. You can follow us individually on Twitter. I'm at GPalmerFFF. CJ's at CJHickman89. Jason at JasonCabrera13. And yeah, that will be Tuesday's show. So with that, we are out of here. Any parting thoughts, guys?
Hey, man. Guys, be safe this weekend, man. Happy Memorial Day to you.
Yeah, Memorial Day weekend. We'll be back, and it'll be a lot of fun. Jason, how about you? Any parting thoughts?
Good to have you back, CJ.
Yeah,
hey,
CJ.
Man.
Woo!
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, that third dynamic in the room. So, yeah, we're out of here. Everyone, take care. Have a great long weekend, Memorial Day weekend, and we will see you on Tuesday. Bye.
Life